On this episode of the World of CONCACAF podcast, it's really all about this. We're going to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is the World of CONCACAF podcast. I'm Eric Smith.
And I'm Donald Wine.
And unfortunately, Jonathan could not join us this week, but we do have a very special replacement guest. I want to introduce him. You may know him from his time representing Visa as a doing publicity for Big Credit Card.
They recognize him from the many videos that we took in St. Vincent. That's clearly where he's famous.
Yes. He is very famous. I'm sure you've seen him at games. And he is a wonderful person and a dear friend of ours, Vishal Patel. Vishal, can you say hi to the people? You might want to unmute before you do.
Yes, it's me, credit card influencer, Vishal Patel. I'm very excited to be joining my first podcast.
Vishal, I should note, is a supporter of the podcast. He is a patron. And if you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/podcacaf, PODCACAF, and hear all the exclusive bonus content we've got on there. We'll be doing one more round with Vish after we finish recording here that you'll be able to hear there. Anything supports making this podcast happen. And we do also have a Discord now. So if you want to chatter about CONCACAF at any time, we're there. So feel free to join. But this is our 21st CONCACAF Laser Focus. We are officially at the midway point of CONCACAF. And before we get started, I do want to say that this episode is really the reason that we started this podcast. So we had taken a trip, the three of us, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines back in 2016. We're going to talk about it. But like that experience is why, we fell in love with CONCACAF, especially CONCACAF away. So I'm just really excited to finally get to this. I wanted to save it until we had done enough episodes that we felt good about where we were going. Donald, is there anything better than St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Hell no. I mean, look, like you said, this is the reason why this show exists. This is we teased the trip for months and months, and then unfortunately we left y'all hanging after the trip, so we apologize for that. But I promise you want to learn about this country. It's one of our favorites, and we've had two stellar trips there. So I'm ready to just talk about it. Let's just talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about it. So this week's CONCACAF Laser Focus, I say this week, even though we haven't done an episode in like a month and a half, but this week's CONCACAF Laser Focus is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Donald, can you tell us a little bit about St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Yes, so let's focus on St. Vincent because that's really the big island here. Of course, most people would say that this island was discovered by some people, namely some dude named Christopher Columbus. He, quote, discovered this in 1498, but there were Amerindian people on the islands long before he got there. So the island actually was originally named Yolomain by the native Kalina people. There's also a few other tribes that were on the island that kind of call themselves native Carib Indies. But in 1498, Christopher Columbus discovered it, giving it the name St. Vincent. Despite attempts by the English and the Dutch, the French were the first to colonize the island. They brought slaves to work plantations. Some of the things that you may see that's involved in a lot of the food there: sugar, coffee, indigo, tobacco, cotton, cocoa. Some of those things are all part of the culture here at St. Vincent. But during the 7 Years' War, which is random because the 7 Years' War didn't involve the Caribbean, but during the 7 Years' War, the English captured St. Vincent and drove the French away. However, this time, the island Caribs were basically like, nah, players, like, y'all over here, first you colonize us, then you try to take us over. We're not having it. So they actually had a conflict for 2 years. And the treaty of, there was a treaty in 1773 that ended the conflict. They actually had to sit down at the table with the island Caribs and be like, look, let's stop fighting. Now, the French and English kept fighting each other over the island, but the Treaty of Versailles, again, not related to this island, but related in the course of history, the Treaty of Versailles is what granted the island to Great Britain after all. Now, I'll talk about the other stuff in a minute, but I want to focus on something that has been kind of an issue on the island over the past couple hundred years, and that is volcanic eruptions. La Soufriere, which is the main volcano on the island, is an active volcano and has been active for several hundred years. One of the biggest eruptions that it had was in 1812. Basically everything that had been built on the island was destroyed by La Soufriere during that eruption in 1812. They rebuilt it back, and in 1902, it erupted again. This time, there was more people on the island. It killed about 2,000 people. Farmland was damaged. The economy kind of deteriorated because there was no one left there. And also, again, not a lot of places to rebuild. Again, they finally rebuilt. It has erupted twice since then. In April of 1979, thousands were evacuated. No one was killed. And unfortunately, I think we talked about it early on in the history of this show. In 2021, it erupted again. It caused a lot of considerable damage on the island. So I think, when we talk about us going to the island a second time, it was our first time since that eruption occurred. And thankfully, it has recovered for the most part from that eruption. Now, it is an independent country now. In October of 1979, St. Vincent and the Grenadines gained full independence, and that is now their Independence Day. They opted to remain within the Commonwealth. So then Queen Elizabeth II and now Charles III is the monarch and the head of state of St. Vincent. There was a referendum in 2009 to try and adopt a new constitution that would remove the monarch as the head of state, and it failed. So currently, right now, it is a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, where it feels like it will be there for a while. But there's been factions of people throughout the years who have tried to get them on a path towards full independence without the British monarchy as a head of state. So that's a little bit about the history. Quickly about the culture. Guys, I want to tell you about a few people that you might know that either are from St. Vincent or have St. Vincent heritage. Okay. Now, O'Donnell Foyle, famous basketball player. He is of Venetian descent. Jesse Lingard plays for Manchester United, Venetian descent. Kevin Little, turn me on, turn me on. He is from St. Vincent. He is St. Vincent's main dude when it comes to soca and calypso, the music. Sophia Young, Ezra Hendrickson, who was formerly most recently the coach of the Chicago Fire, is from St. Vincent. And finally, one that you may not realize, he has the Venetian descent, 21 Savage. Yes, 21 Savage. He of British citizenship, who actually got deported from the United States for a little bit a couple years ago. He has St. Vincent heritage. So there's a few for your trivia next time you're out.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about the important things about the culture, like the food, and especially the beverages coming up. But this is also a soccer podcast. We should talk about the soccer. Don brought up that independence came in 1979. Independence also brought the St. Vincent Grenadines Football Federation, founded in 1979, members of CONCACAF since 1986, and members of FIFA since 1988. Known as the Vincy Heat, the women are also known as the Lady Heat. We'll dive into that quickly, but just some soccer background. Their national stadium, Arnos Vale Playing Field, it's a cricket ground. So if you go to watch a game there, it is maybe the most Caribbean experience you'll get. The background of the stadium is just hills. It's this giant cricket ground with soccer field in the middle, located next to the old airport, which we'll get into airports later. The men's side, they have a full-fledged league system. They've got a premier division as well as a lower tier first division, about 30 teams between the islands. On the women's side, they actually have a pretty built out women's league as well. Their premier division is 7 teams with 3 zones in the first division comprised of 20 total teams. So it's a pretty great soccer culture. And one of the things we found when we were researching for doing this episode is that related to soccer, it's ingrained in the culture. In St. Vincent, they've got a prisons soccer tourney. So the most recent edition just wrapped up in May of 2023, won by C Block. The teams in this competition were A Block, B Block, C Block, D Block. Just it's a five-a-side. The prisons behind the walls five-a-side street soccer tournament. Uh, this year's was won by C Block. The picture they've got posted here on this Eyewitness News St. Vincent Grenadines article. The dudes on the championship team were wearing purple CONCACAF pennies, and I really think that probably powered them. We're going to post this on the Twitter account, so definitely check that out. The interesting thing about this, so it's five-a-side tournament. They split up the different blocks of the prison. So after the tournament was over, they took players from each of the teams and they played the guards in a game. And the prisoners beat the guards this year 2-0 at the conclusion. So they've been doing this five-a-side tournament since 2018. In the last couple of years, they've had this prisoners versus guards game, and the prisoners won. We got a real life longest yard game going on down in St. Vincent. Absolutely incredible. It just shows like the depth of the culture of soccer in this wonderful chain of islands.
Also, real quickly, you mentioned the nickname Vincey Heat. Can we just say that is a top 5 international nickname? Like
top 3.
Top 3, it ain't 3. Like there is very few teams on this planet that have a nickname better than Vincey Heat. That's just, and it's phenomenal because the way like they don't ever say the St. Vincent and Grenadines men's national team or women's national team. They're like Vincey Heat is playing tomorrow.
It's not,
and when you hear that, it just makes you shudder. You're like, oh, this is going to be epic.
It's not even the Vincey Heat. It is Vincey Heat.
Vincey, no V. That. Yeah, it's like Facebook.
Yeah. And if you want to support the St. Vincent Grenadines Football Federation, the jerseys for the national team are for sale. If you go to scoresports.com, Score is a United States-based soccer supplier. They sell the national team jerseys. They got 3 kits. They got a green, they got a gold, and they got a blue, and they are all fire.
I got the gold. I've worn it. I mean, obviously the listeners haven't seen it, but I wore it in St. Vincent, but I also have worn it on this show once before. I didn't do it tonight because it's hanging in the closet. It's almost retired at this point, where the way it should be.
Yeah, for sure. Just touching on the women's national team, the Lady Heat, I guess. They're currently ranked 156 in the world. Their highest rank ever was 92 in 2003. Coming up next for them, they've got CONCACAF W Gold Cup qualification this fall. They're in League B. Their group has them, Dominican Republic, Bermuda, Barbados. Talk about a dream travel group. With those countries, the winner of that group will advance to the playoffs to play for a spot in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup next summer. They've never qualified for the Women's World Cup or the CONCACAF W Championship, but we are cheering on the squad in this campaign. Donald, Vincey Heat, give me the rundown on Vincey Heat.
So they are 178th in the FIFA rankings for the men. Their highest rank was 73rd. That was back in October of 2007. Now, you mentioned that the federation has kind of been around since like 1979 or so, whenever they declared independence. But they've been playing since 1936. They played their first match in 1936. They played a series of matches, 2 series against Barbados, each of them home and away. Each of them ended in a 1-1 draw. So they scored in their very first ever game, which a lot of these islands can't really say, depending on who they played. The great thing is they used to play in a tournament called the Windward Islands Tournament. It was in the 1960s and 70s. I don't know why this doesn't exist today, because this is something that I bet you that if this was around, the podcast would be founded based on that, because we would be there every single year. St. Vincent has won that tournament on 2 occasions, 1965, 1966. They were also runners-up to Haiti in 1979 and to Trinidad and Tobago in 1981. Now, their golden years, if you call them that, were 1995 and 1996. 1995, that was their best finish at the Caribbean Cup. They were runners up to Trinidad and Tobago there. But then the next year, they made the Gold Cup for the first time, and so far, the only time. And they didn't make it out of the group stage, but that was kind of the run that they had, 1995, 1996. They have not made a World Cup. They're in the League B of Nations League. And honestly, they have been on the cusp of getting promoted to League A. They've had a couple slip-ups in previous iterations of the Nations League. But hopefully this is an opportunity for them to succeed and get back to League A. Or for the United States, maybe it's an opportunity for them to get relegated so that we can play St. Vincent once again. They did play once in 2016, which is obviously why we went to the island for the first time. And so I think that's a good segue. Talk about
I think this is time for our Let's Get a Bucket segment. And we're going to get a bucket with our friend Vishal. You can go ahead and unmute now. You can join the conversation.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so glad that you joined us. I think the plan has always been to have you on for this episode. Just because, this really is the best, experience we've had. So just Down mentioned it. So the U.S. played St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a World Cup qualifier September of 2016. It's the first time the U.S. had ever played on the island. The three of us went. Vishal, let's just go with what are your initial memories from that trip?
Yeah, I mean, so I think maybe listeners know this or they don't. The thing about St. Vincent is it is this tiny little idyllic paradise. I mean, it is a chain of jewels all the way to the south that most, at least American tourists, do not know about. When we think of American tourist destinations, you think Bahamas, you think Jamaica. I can go through a whole, Beach Boys song. That's a different story. but St. Vincent isn't on that list. And when you land there, it is just absolutely stunning and gorgeous. But we experienced both airports. In early airport days, it was also kind of a trip to get there. So there were no nonstop flights from the United States when we went in 2016. We had to fly and connect through Rihanna's own Barbados, which was also awesome because then you have like a layover, you have Bajan food, and
bacon with a side of shrimp.
Exactly. And then you just have this tiny little hop over to St. Vincent, and what an excellent few days. And obviously, back then from an infrastructure standpoint, we were all, there are not a lot of big hotels, so we were all staying pretty much at the same hotel. And I remember checking in, and when my sister and I checked in the hotel, just in the lobby is Jeff Carlisle. And it's, everybody associated with that game was basically staying together.
And it's not like we were at a hotel called Beachcombers. It wasn't like, a Marriott or a Hilton. It was a for all intents and purposes, the mom and pop hotel. Like it looked like a series of houses that people were just like, stay here. This is the room.
And then obviously Schmitty found this amazing little bar that just was also like paradise just in and of itself on a little secluded cove. I really, those who cannot make it to that game, I don't think they fully appreciate, what they missed out. I mean, St. Vincent is, again, also so small. There's no dedicated U.S. embassy or consulate there. So U.S. embassy staff came from, correct me if I'm wrong, from Barbados. To that game, right? So it was just an incredible experience, incredible food, and like you said, it was the inspiration for this podcast.
I mean, I want to say there were maybe 20 to 25 U.S. fans that had made the trip. So including media, including all the fans, including people from the embassy coming in, like. There were a handful of people, and we all got to hang out together, and it was wonderful. Going back to the airport, so the original airport on the island, E.T. Joshua, it's on like the south end of the island, and you basically come in, and you need to be on a puddle jumper. Like it cannot land jumbo jets. Like it was a small island airport. and you got to land and hit the brakes hard. And you get off the plane, you walk across tarmac, you go into this little airport where there's one room that you walk into that's customs, and you're just standing in line. There were like two people to check in a plane. So famously, as you might have heard on an earlier episode of this podcast, Grant Wall, the late great, um, had beaten us into St. Vincent by a couple days, uh, and caused like a national kerfuffle because he was like talking about how ridiculous it was waiting to get through customs there. Like there were 40 people on the plane, and he was there for like 3 hours trying to get just through the airport, you know?
Now, the airport was like 2 rooms, right? The one room was immigration, and the other room was the people waiting to get on the plane that you just got off of. Like it wasn't like an airport that you could have multiple flights, multiple gates. It wasn't even a gate. It was just one room. And whatever plane landed, they were just like, all right, get those people off the plane, we'll process them, and then those same people would go over and then put the other people on the plane, and then that plane would just go back on the runway and take off.
It was a room with a desk, 20 chairs, and a door.
Yeah.
It's like the gate, you walked out the door. That's what you did. And just the experience, because Grant went through, like, told the world that it's like, oh, this took forever, this is ridiculous. By the time we got there, we were in and out of there in 15 minutes. So, bless Grant forever. I'm glad we got to thank him on the podcast itself, for plowing a path for us to get through customs there. And you walk outside, and it's just like you're on the street, essentially. We had grabbed a cab, went over to Beachcombers, and like the hotel, there were like 4 or 5 buildings maybe, but there was like a restaurant with a pool attached right on the water. And we spent half of the trip just hanging out in that restaurant. The bar, phenomenal. The rum selection, phenomenal. I think my friend and I that had gone together, we like opened a tab our first night and just put all our drinks on it for the 4 nights that we were there. It came out to like $50 a person for the whole trip, like US, just absolutely ridiculous. But as Vish mentioned, part of this trip was in doing research. I found this nice little tiki bar not far from our hotel. And this tiki bar is my favorite place on the planet. It's called Float Beach Bar. It is located at Blue Lagoon Marina, around just past Arno's Vale, right off the highway there. And this place, right on the water, they got a nice little dock, just like a shack with a bar, huts, for some cover, like a swing right on the beach, just feral chickens walking around. And just like, I cannot express in words like the level of vibes of this place. Donald,
it was so peaceful. It was so peaceful. Like we the first time we went with like, I think it was maybe like 6 or 7 of us. It wasn't that many. And like, shout out to the Crafts, they were with us. I think was Whipple with us. I think maybe.
I think Whipple was, my friend was, and then we're Don and Brandy with us too.
Yes, they were. Yeah, so it was about 10 people, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys want to start with a bucket of beers?" We're like, "Yes, we'll start with a bucket of beers." They're like, "Well, it's 10 for 60," and we're like, "10 for $60? That's not bad." And they're like, 60 Eastern Caribbean, which is like $20. And so at that point, we were like, "Ball game, we're ready to play." And I think we were there for about 3 hours, like just kind of watch the sunset. There's also there's like another island where people stay that's almost directly across from Float, so you could see kind of people, boating out to the island. Not like, I mean, it's maybe like you could swim there if you were a strong swimmer. It'd probably take you like 15 minutes, but it just the scenery, the vibes, the price, like everything about it was just perfect. And it's exactly what being people think being in the Caribbean is just like going to a resort and sitting on the beach and having, some dude put a drink in your hand every 5 seconds and you're just, vibing out. This is way better than that. Like and Smitty, it's like you said, it's hard to explain properly what that feeling was, but I know the three of us lived it and it was so nice we had to do it twice.
Yeah. Now I must say, this place, the best popcorn chicken I've ever had in my life. Absolutely incredible. I cannot. Oh my God. I flew to the island again just to go get that popcorn chicken. Just the best food. Everything we've ever tried there was phenomenal. But I do want to focus on the Hyroon. Hyroon, like as far as Caribbean beers go, where do you guys place it? I think it's top tier.
Yeah, I think I would put Hyroon up near the top. I mean, you think of, obviously Carob, Red Stripe. I think we've all, between the three of us, have tried a decent number of beers through these islands, and Hyroon is got to be one of the top tropical beers in the world. I don't think there's any exaggeration. And going back to the chicken for a second, I know listeners of this particular podcast know that Schmitty is a chicken connoisseur, but I can also back him up. You go to this bar and you look at just, it's a very simple bar, immaculate vibes. How good could just fried chicken be? Oh.
Also, the hot sauce, like the hot sauce that they had.
Yeah, exactly. The hot sauce.
Also, remember the first trip, shout out the Chill Spot, because that's where we pre-gamed.
Oh, yeah, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't
got there yet, but yeah. I just want to mention that the hot sauce there was so good that Vishal and I literally bought a 2-liter apiece full of it. They literally just took whatever hot sauce they had, it was homemade, and they just put it in a 2-liter soda bottle and gave it to us.
Yeah.
And I packed them both and gave them and brought them up. We went to Jacksonville for our next match, and I was going to give it to Vishal. I ended up giving it to our friend who promptly lost it. But I had mine. And I'm going to tell you that 2-liter bottle lasted about 3 weeks. It was like I put it on. When you say I put that shit on everything, I put that shit on everything.
Exactly.
Awesome. I love the optics of just carrying a fucking 2-liter bottle of hot sauce, like a 2-liter soda bottle of hot sauce.
I did check my bag because of it.
Yeah, like you have anything to clear? Yeah, a 2-liter bottle full of hot sauce.
I have hot sauce. What's the 2-liter bottle? Is that rum? No, I have a bottle of rum too, but that's hot sauce. Oh, the hot sauce is fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
Before we get any further, we should talk about the rum. Captain Bligh XO Special Reserve Rum. I got the bag right here. I'm showing the gentleman on the screen. Bottled by St. Vincent Distillers. The World Rum Awards 2014 World's Best Rum winner. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best alcohol I've ever had in my life. If I had to drink one alcoholic beverage and then die, I want this. Like this is the smoothest, most tasteful. It's just absolutely perfect rum. Like you can just drink it straight. The first time we went in 2016, you could get a 750 milliliter bottle, $7 US. And it is the best rum you'll have ever had. I
can attest because our first day on the island, I think I drank 3/4 of a bottle of one, and
yes,
my night ended very early.
was that the night before?
That was the night before, yeah.
Oh,
when we went back from floating and pregame at the bar, I was like, "Yo, this is the greatest stuff ever," and it was until it wasn't.
By pregamed at the bar, I think you mean we just drank at the bar for the entire night. The pregame went the whole night.
So are we talking about the night before party?
Yes.
Okay, so not to get a little X-rated, but Donald did go to bed a little bit early, and we might have all tried to wake him up by jumping in his bed while the poor man was sleeping. And I think there was got to be at least like half a dozen to 10 of us like, Donald, wake up, Donald, wake up.
Yes.
And he was
There's
out.
a picture. There's a picture
Yeah,
of
I'm sure,
everyone.
yes.
Like, I mean, when I say everyone, I mean every American that was staying at the resort. I
It
think
was still
Jeff
up.
Carlisle might be in the picture. Like, everybody is on my bed. And it's just me, like, half eyes open, like, bruh, like, this is not ending well. And also, like, back in the day, back there, because of the mosquitoes, it was hurricane season. So
Yeah.
still quite muggy. And so everyone had like mosquito netting over their beds. So people like ripped off the mosquito netting. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I just see masses of people in my face. Someone has a picture of it. If they do, don't post that because it's probably but I do want to see it.
If we find it, we'll
Tag
post
Can.
it. Yeah.
Don't tag
tweet us
don't
at
tag
CONCACAF. We will retweet.
Yeah.
That night before was just out of control. But that was the night before the game. So the U.S. was taking on St. Vincent. This was the second round of qualifying.
Yes.
It was the round before the Hex.
Yep.
When we participated in that.
Yes. And this was again the 2018 cycle. So really the high point of American soccer for that 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
So the game, probably the biggest St. Vincent ever hosted. They declared a national half-day holiday so people could go to the game. Like everything shut down after lunch to go to this game. It was an afternoon game. The stadium, not great lighting, so it had to be played during the day. We ended up having a pregame party at Chill Spot Bar and Grill. Shout out Chill Spot for the hot sauce. The high runes were flowing. That is the one place where I've eaten shark. I had some delightful fried shark there. That was good. But actually, I want to say it might have been Grant who had like written a story about it. There's a picture of all of us at like the pregame party that he posted on Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
For that. But yeah, I mean, like there were legitimately like 20 of us there for the game and just all hanging out at the bar before. Great vibes. We ended up walking over to the stadium for the game. The U.S. ended up winning. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just leading up to that, all that we just talked about, the nicest people ever.
Oh, yes.
Period.
Yeah.
There's never been a trip that I've been on, at least. I won't speak for anyone else, but there's not a trip I've been on where the people were nicer than they were on St. Vincent. It was just incredible. That, like, it was the biggest, again, like Eric said, the biggest sporting moment, at least biggest soccer moment in their country's history. And they rolled out the red carpet and they were like, tell your friends about us. And we were like, absolutely not. Because if they ain't found out by now, we're not going to tell them how cool this is because we want to keep it for ourselves.
Yeah. I remember being in the cab going over a Chill Spot and we were talking about the game with the cab driver and he's asking us what we thought the score was going to be. He's like, 3-1 Vinci Heat. Everyone was convinced St. Vincent was going to win that game. We go over to the stadium, just the vibe's immaculate. They had a steel drum national anthem. Just absolutely, like,
so good.
I wish I could bottle that moment and just relive it over and over again because you're just like, how are we here? How is this so perfect? Like, you cannot get any more on point than that. And the crazy thing about the game is, I'm sure you guys might remember, like, St. Vincent scored early and it got called back on offside.
Mm-hmm.
When they scored, I'm like, oh, shit. Like, we're not going to lose this, are we? And thankfully, the boys came together and ended up winning 6-0. Can
we talk about the stadium real quick, though?
Yes,
because there's a couple perks that I think people need to realize about Arnos Vale Stadium. It's a cricket stadium, so it's a big oval, and we're kind of far removed from the pitch, but unlike Antigua and Barbuda, we were kind of on a corner so that we were able to be closer to the sideline and the inline. But we were on one end of the oval. On the other end of the oval is the airport that we were just talking about. You could literally land when I say an arm's length away from the fence that separates the airport to the stadium, if you walked 2 paces, you could be from the stadium, you could hit runway. That's how close the stadium is or to the old airport. And it was great because there were some times where you could kind of hear the PA announcer, and then you couldn't because a plane was landing because it would land right next to the loudspeaker, the only loudspeaker. It didn't have a jumbotron, so you couldn't see like replays or anything. So you had to kind of rely on what he was saying. And then there was times where like they'd be like, and the United States score or yellow card on whoever. And then all of a sudden you hear nothing because all you hear is a plane landing. It's just immaculate the vibes.
Do you remember us getting a case of beer from the stand, and they literally gave you like a case inside the cardboard box and just like, here you go.
Yeah.
Also, at the end of the game, I think one of the players came over.
Josie Altidore.
Well, Josie came over, like he came over on his own. Then like one of the coaches came over, and they're like, "Wait, did you guys really come here for this game?" We're like, "Why wouldn't we? Like we're addicts." And like that coach literally just like ran over and tried to get as many players as he possibly could. Like, these guys came all the way down here. Do you know what we had to do to get here? Now imagine they did that. They didn't even play. They just came to watch you play. Go talk to them. Yeah. So we got a bunch of players come over to like thank us for coming and kind of like, just wave or whatever and slap fives and stuff. But it was really cool that they were just like, wow, the commitment that you guys had. That was a game that really was like, yo, you have to be committed to get here because it took a lot to figure that whole trip out the first time.
Yeah, people will think you need to get committed if you're going to St. Vincent for a soccer game, but really they're the crazy ones because they missed out on all that. And I will forever support Josie Altidore because he is the one that came over. He shook every one of our hands for coming and supporting the team, and I really respect that. Like when we do all this traveling, it does mean a lot when the players actually like show that it's like, man, that's awesome that you guys came. And Josie was a real one for doing that. Vish,
so should we talk about
remember from that game?
Oh, from that game?
I mean,
there's a great GIF of Vish dancing.
Yeah. I was caught by who was the broadcaster here in the US?
It was BN. I think it was BN Sport then.
BN, yeah. So I was caught, dancing, celebrating a goal, I guess. Not the most sensual dance, I would say, but it has been turned into a meme. Shout out Josh Kale. So yeah.
Not safe for work.
By any means. No, not at all.
No. Yeah. And then for some reason we decided to leave the next day and go to Florida. I don't know why we done that.
We had to get the hot sauce back.
Yeah, it's true. We had to get the hot sauce back. We had to get the Bly back. I tried to like milk and savor that bottle of Bly for years after that. Like I just would not let myself finish it. It's like, man, I don't know when I'll ever get back. And long story short, situations present themselves. So thanks to the greatest competition on the face of the planet, CONCACAF Nations League, the U.S. got drawn into a group with Grenada. Makes a lot of sense that the Grenadines, Grenada, next to each other. So schedule comes out, and as soon as the group's drawn, I'm like, yo, we're going to St. Vincent on the way. And Donald's like, in Vish, we had to convince a little bit, but he's like, yes, we're going back. And this March, part of the U.S. Grenada game down in Grenada, we decided to take a pit stop in St. Vincent. The three of us making a trip back. We're like, yeah, let's just go sit at Float for 3 days. And swear to God, that's what we did.
Literally when Eric said, my plan is just to be at Float every day when it opens, I go, well, dude, like it's a hotel. Why don't we just stay there? That way we don't have to go. We just have to be there. Like we would. And so literally we landed, went straight to check in. And I don't even think our room was ready until 3 or something like that. Yeah. But Float opened at 2. So we were able to like grab a couple beers and wait. And then literally threw our bags down and went directly to Float. And I think we stayed there for 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So every day was literally wake up, get breakfast, you got something in your stomach, and you're just training your body for Float for the rest of the day anyway.
Well, Well, the one day we did go down into Kingstown, in a failed attempt to try to figure out a way to ship a case of Bly back. Apparently, you can't ship alcohol through the mail. Something we found out. But we went into Kingstown, got some delicious lunch at a local KFC. The island KFCs. We're gonna talk about this on our one more round we do with Vish. Just food,
Yeah.
but island KFCs can't knock it.
And that again, that's something I feel, skeptically most of our fellow Americans don't understand. They look at, say, McDonald's here in the US and they go, oh, how good can McDonald's be overseas? It's so much better. But KFC, the gap between KFC overseas and the KFC here is exponential. And the island ones, they are, the CONCACAF Champions League of KFC. So.
Yes. So we had gone into Kingstown for a little bit and then went back to Float. Just hung out at Float all day. I do want to shout out the manager at Float, Hazrin. Dude
Awesome.
Was there when we went in 2016, was still there when we went back in 2023. He was there every other day, just taking care of us. The food was phenomenal. We basically ate the whole menu over the course of 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
But did you have anything that was bad, Donald?
No, like not a single thing. There wasn't even a thing where I was like, this is fine. Everything was like, yo, this is. I think the worst I said was, this is really good.
Yeah, that pork was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just absolutely phenomenal food vibes. We just drank buckets upon buckets of Hyroon. And then the one night, I know Donald had to do some work, so Vish and I were just hanging out at the bar. And do you remember the name of the drink, Vish? I can't remember what was in it.
Oh,
the key component, though, and there's a reason you might not remember this, is that we've got photo evidence of it. It's the only reason I have good memory of it. Is Sunset, one of the distilleries down there, they make a rum that's called literally very strong rum.
Yes.
It's too strong to be put on a plane.
You literally cannot put it on a plane because it is too flammable to go on an airplane. Yeah.
The pressure could make it spontaneously combust. Like they have signs in the airport that says, if you are holding this rum, you need to let us know right now because you cannot leave with it.
Yeah. And the guy made this cocktail, and I mean, it was like you didn't really notice it was the very strong rum.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't taste like you were drinking, say, Everclear or an equivalent. But yeah, I think it's one of those that hits you afterwards now.
Man, I'm trying to find the picture of the bottle to find the actual proof on it. I do have a video of us doing the drink.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to post that on the Patreon.
Nice.
But yeah, I got pretty fucked up that night. So we had 3 wonderful days at Float. I think it rained the one day for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it was just like 80s, sunshine, partly cloudy.
Rainbows,
sitting out
sunsets.
Yes.
I mean, remember it rained that one night and we we were underneath one of the tables
at the
bar, under the huts.
Yep.
And we just moved underneath the bar.
Yep.
And everyone just kept drinking. Like it was pouring. I mean, it was a massive pour. It was it wasn't like a
15 of us or something total.
Yeah. There was like 15 of people underneath this, hut. Just it's pouring rain. We're still drinking. We're still afloat. We're fine.
Yeah. I think we figured it out after 3 days there. Combined, we each spent less than $100 on our tab to just get drunk and eat every meal at Float. Yeah. Just you can't do better than that.
No.
Also, I will say that the price of the brick has remained the same. From 2016, there was no inflation whatsoever. The price
on the rums, it did. The rums
went up a little bit, but like the beer,
but the
still
beer,
10 for 60. Yeah,
which is nuts.
Yeah, worth every EC dollar. But it was a wonderful trip, but it wasn't perfect. And I want to kind of let Vishal tell this part of the story. You don't want to leave because leaving is actually a pain in the ass. So Vish, can we get a little background on us trying to leave St. Vincent?
So, hindsight is 2020. Uh, at the end of the day, like this trip idea was an amazing idea. But the goal for us and all of our friends was Grenada. And correct me if I'm wrong, that was the first time we played away to Grenada since 2004. So again, also, there are a lot of people I know, friends, people I live with, probably should have gone to that game, but that's a different story.
Yeah, cowards.
Like, right. So you've not played away to this amazing country for 19 years. So our goal was to get there. Now we thought, if what is nearby Grenada, obviously St. Vincent and the Grenadines, let's do a few days prior. The problem, or only downside, is that there's these small puddle jumpers from St. Vincent to Grenada. We thought everything was going to be fine because, sometimes you're on island time, you're on island airlines, but, if you got a flight, you've got a book, it's got booked. They say they're going to take off that day. You're thinking, at the most, maybe it'll get delayed. So we show up to the airport. Now, just rewind a little bit. Earlier in the day, the airline, you're used to postponements with a lot of airlines. This was almost like a preponement. I was on calls for work. I think these two were afloat, and we get an email. All of us get emails and texts saying, hey, I think the airline even tried to call us, say we're going to take off a little bit early, 2 hours early. Fine, that's it. We're just chilling with the vibes. It's fine. We go to the airport, 4 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. Donald is taking care of the transportation, getting the taxi van paid off, and then I go with my bags. I'm the first one. I show up at the counter, and the lady goes, "Oh, where are you going to?" So, "Oh, we're going to Grenada." She's like, "That flight was canceled." No communication from the airline. And this is 4 p.m. There are a lot of details that go, a lot of yelling and arguing and back and forth. I think, what time do we end up leaving that same terminal building?
I want to say it was around 8:30.
We were the last ones out because, mind you, our flight was supposed to take off at 7:30 originally.
Yep.
They emailed us and said it was supposed to take off at 6 instead of 7:30. We're like, okay, that's weird, but okay, we're cutting short paradise by a couple hours, whatever. We get there at 4 for a 6 o'clock flight, and the flight is canceled. No communication from the airline whatsoever. On the board, it still says it's taking off at 7:30. That board did not change until 8:15 p.m.
Yeah.
Even at 8:15 p.m., it never said canceled. It even said arrived, because the plane actually did fly from Barbados to St. Vincent in effort to pick us up. But the airline was basically said, no, we're not flying today. And it was literally the only flight of the day of the week that had been canceled due to, or at least from there, that had been canceled due to just them saying we didn't want to fly. There were people who were on the flight from Grenada that morning who came with no stuff because they were coming for business.
Yep.
And come to find out, they had to stay a night on the island because the flight was canceled. The lone flight was canceled.
Just a little context. So our flight, I was the smart one and said, hey, we know these Caribbean airlines might be a little wishy-washy. Let's make sure we book the direct flight, because that's not the one that's not going to get canceled. There were 3 flights on this airline that day that would have gone to Barbados and then to Grenada. Those flights took off and got to Grenada. The one we booked did not.
Yeah, it was there were now, these planes are not big, obviously. Small planes, but there was a United Nations party that they were screwed over by this. Like Donald mentioned, this poor Grenadian family, whole family, just come for business, come for the day, nothing with them, and everyone. And the thing is,
and then there was the German couple too.
Yeah. Yes, there's a German couple that was with us the entire time, super frustrated, and they were island hopping, so this was just going to completely wreck their itinerary. And the thing is, you're used to, even here in the US, in a lot of countries, you are used to something goes wrong with the airline. They don't give you maybe the clearest of answers. But the answers from this were always just not even, they would make up some other story or some excuse. They would just look at you and say, I don't know. Just have no idea. Like Donald would be like, well, the board over here says otherwise. I don't know. So we are now hours of spending talking to the people in the terminal, talking to people on the phone. Their call centers are also very CONCACAF Nations League. Their call centers, one is in like Trinidad, one's in Dominican Republic, one's in Florida.
We needed the League A office, and we kept getting League C.
Right, exactly. And the different offices, the different regions and countries were giving us different answers. I will say this, those who know this podcast or know Donald, usually very, calm under pressure. This just how bad the situation was. I've never seen Donald this upset. And there was a point where we were using my phone and me and Donald were just handing the phone back and forth to each other purely because it's like, I can't with them anymore. You take it. And it was just going back and forth because we weren't getting clear answers. Now again, going back to Grenada, the goal was to get to Grenada. And what the airline was telling us was originally the first thing they said is, oh, maybe this is, mind you, a Wednesday night. We can maybe get you there Saturday.
Like no, they didn't say maybe. They said the next flight is on Saturday, maybe. And I think all I heard, because it was you, Vishal was on the phone when this happened, and it wasn't like a speaker. So all I hear is, what the fuck do you mean maybe? And I go, what does maybe? What does maybe mean? What does maybe mean? He goes, they said they might fly on Saturday, maybe. And I go, give me the phone. Give me the phone. Saturday's not good enough. Literally we had while this is all going on, Vishal has booked us a flight on another airline that was scheduled to leave the next day. This airline was saying, we are going to just create a flight for you and we'll send you an itinerary sometime tonight on when you're supposed to be at the airport for this made up flight that they said was, they were going to create out of thin air. And I had what was called the doomsday scenario, which was we were going to fly back to Miami, basically blow an entire day, fly back to Miami, spend the night in Miami, and then fly from Miami to Grenada on Friday, the day of the game, and land like 2 hours before kickoff. We were ready to pull.
We were ready to do this. We were ready to do this to make sure we got to the game because that's what you do for CONCACAF.
That's what you do. I have never missed a Nations League game, and I was not going to miss it because of this airline.
And for the listeners, I mean, just logistically, we were legitimately, I mean, the competing airline, the fact that Donald was trying to get us to via American, like all the way up to Miami and back down. You're talking about 3 hours up, 3 hours back down. But we were also looking at ferries. Like we were going to boat, kayak, dinghy. I don't care.
We were talking about renting a plane, like a chartering a flight for like us and the some of the other families that were stuck as well. We're like, yo, what? Maybe we could just get on a flight. And they emailed me a quote back, and I was like, "Thank you for your time. We're going to try and stick this out because it was a lot of money that we didn't have."
We were going to. I mean, even the tailspin bear pilot. I don't care. We were going to get this done. And what is crazy about you live by the Caribbean airline, you die by the Caribbean airline. And what I will say about this is the next morning, both airlines, so both the original airline and the competing airline, the original airline, I think, realized how angry not only we were, but every other passenger that was supposed to be on this plane. If it was, say, a United or American or Delta or Southwest, they would just say, we will put you on the next scheduled flight route and number. These guys, they just invented a route at 8 in the morning or 9, whatever it was, the next morning. And it was the same flight number with like maybe an additional letter from the evening before. So they just came up with a plane, found a plane, and came to get us. And we're now on the plane, taxiing for departure, for takeoff. And the whole time I'm in the terminal building and I'm saying to Donald and Schmitty, hey, should I cancel the other one? both of them, rightfully so, were like, no, wait till we're like mid-air and then cancel. Sure enough, that's what I did. And that other airline deposited the money back right away.
Oh,
Well, no,
God.
so here's what happened. So that flight was there. It was, the plane was already there, or at least it was landing, whatever. And our plane, Vishal's on the phone because it was supposed to take off at 9. And at 9:45, this plane had not showed up. And so everyone on this that's supposed to be on this flight is like, yo, not again. Like, so we're sitting there like, yo, if this plane is not here by 10:05, we need to get on this other flight because we have a ticket for that. So sure enough, the flight shows up, we see it land, and we see the lady that was telling us that she didn't know anything yesterday. She was walking back, she's like, flight has landed. So we're like, all right, we're grabbing everybody that we know that's on the flight. We're like, see people just like kind of lounging around, like, yo, flight's here, let's go. So we all rush on the plane. We take and we sit on we're like on the plane. So like, yo, it's until we're in the air, don't cancel nothing. So we fly. We finally land in Grenada. We go through customs, and Vishal has a bag because he had been flying all over planet Earth before that. So we're waiting for the bag, and thank God he had to check a bag, because I happened to look up at the marquee that has all the arrived flights. And the other plane that we were going to latch onto was delayed. And as soon as that happened, I said, Vishal, now you can cancel the flight. You call them and you say, this flight is delayed and we are not going to make our meeting. And so we need to cancel the flight. And so he called on the way to the hotel and said, hey, flight's delayed and we're not going to be able to make it in time for what we need to do. So we just need you to refund us for our flight. And they go, understood, no problem. We'll put that money right back in your account.
No problem.
Yeah.
Instant.
And like the insane part about all this is, you know the distance from Kingstown to St. George's, Grenada? It is
50 miles.
84 miles.
Right.
84 miles distance. And we were about to travel to all lengths of the globe to get 84 miles. We were in the air for maybe 20 minutes on that flight. Yep.
We didn't clear 10,000 feet.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you got up high enough. It's like, all right, prepare for a descent.
Mm-hmm.
And we had landing in Grenada, and we had a good time. But we did have Bly in the bag, which is all that really mattered from this trip.
Oh, I will mention again, shout out St. Vincent, because after we left the airport, after not getting on our plane, the airline did not take care of our hotel. So we had to get one. Yeah. And there's only really like one left that like the hotel we were just coming from was full for the night. The one that we were had been to before, Beachcombers, that was sold out. But there was one right next to Beachcombers that had like 2 rooms left. We're like, we'll just grab one of those rooms. And I think it was 2 beds. We just, we're like, yo, we're going to be here for 4 hours, whatever. So we get there, and like the German couple that was supposed to be on our flight is sitting there like, oh, hey, there's like 2 other people that ended up being on our flight that were also there. It was like the one hotel that everybody ended up having to go to. And so we sat down and we're just tired. And I think we're just like, yo, we're just going to do a bunch of Bly until we are tired enough to go to sleep. And that's exactly what we did. I think Vishal and I had like a little snack, but like, we're like, yo, just give us the Bly until we're done. And then we will go to sleep. And I think at like 5 a.m. the next morning, we had to get up to go to the airport.
I had a Bly and went to bed, and it was a day. It was a day. Oh, we should say we did describe like the airport from the first trip. So in the time between our 2 trips, St. Vincent spent a huge amount of money for the islands, purposes, on building a brand new airport. Argyle International Airport opened right around the start of the pandemic. But they built it on the east side of the island, right off the water, large enough to take, long range airliners. So there are now direct flights from the United States. We flew direct from Miami there. There's flights from Toronto, I believe, and maybe British Airways flies as well.
Well, I think when we, correct me if I'm wrong, when we were headed to our backup hotel that night that we ended up at, we saw the Virgin Atlantic
That's
that was
right.
island hopping on the way back to London.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Virgin Atlantic, and then also Air Canada flew like every other day.
Yeah.
From Toronto. So the reason why we couldn't do it is because it was flying down on Wednesday to fly back to Toronto on Thursday, and we needed to get out on Wednesday, so we couldn't use that as an option.
Even consider going to Toronto, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, we were in worst case scenario there.
We were gonna do all the federations of CONCACAF in one trip to go 84 miles, but yes.
Yep.
Yeah. But the airport, it is fairly nice, especially for like a Caribbean airport. Not necessarily a large airport. It did seem to have some money from other governments that was contributed to build it. There's pictures of Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez on the wall to that level. But it was nice and sufficient for the island. But yeah, now there's direct flights. Like, I think next time we're just gonna, take directs to and from. We're not.
Yeah.
I trust American Airlines a little bit more than some of these other not to be named airlines that we could really drag, but there could be future sponsors. So I'm not going to name names.
I don't know about all that, but but no, the idea is go down, enjoy paradise, and then when you leave, don't try to puddle jump because you're at the mercy of the puddle jumpers, and sometimes you just don't want to jump puddles, and that's how we got in our situation. But it worked out because we got 3 days in paradise. We then went to Grenada, stayed there for 3 more days, and it was great.
Yeah. Moral of the story is St. Vincent and the Grenadines is God's country, and everyone should visit. And my favorite place on the planet is Float Beach Bar. So shout out St. Vincent, shout out Hazrin, shout out Vince Heat, shout out Blue Lagoon Marina. We love you, and we will be back soon to drink all of the Captain Bligh that you had. All right. So thanks, Vish, for joining us. We have some other business to attend to, and this is a part of the show called Real Team or Fake Team. Now, Vishal, being a supporter of the show, is well familiar, but if you're just tuning in, what we've got is soccer is an expansive place, and in our region, our beloved CONCACAF, some of these countries, they got soccer teams whose names sound made up. So we've got a collection of teams, some of them real, some of them fake. And you got to try to figure out what teams are real and what teams are fake just by hearing the name. So I'm going to let Donald lead off. We're going to alternate. Vish, I just wanted to let you know, we've had a 0 out of 6. We've had a 6 out of 6. We've got the full spectrum. There are no expectations, but we want to see what your ability to discern CONCACAF-ness is. So, Donald, give us our first team.
All right. So our first team is Pride and Joy.
Is that a real team or a fake team?
Real team?
Pride and Joy is the fakest name for a real team I've ever heard in my life, but it is a real team.
As a real team. That is in the first division of the St. Vincent men's competitions. All right. My first team. Besco Pastures United.
What pastures?
Besco.
Besco Pastures United.
Besco Pastures United.
I'm going to go with fake team.
Besco Pastures United is a real team. They finished 8th in the Premier Division of the St. Vincent League this season.
Gotta know those mid-table sides.
All right, so you're one of two.
Yep.
You're split so far. All right. The next one I have for you is Avenues United.
Avenues United. That sounds real.
Does it? Does it? Are you sure?
I'm going to say real, yeah.
Yeah, it's real. It's a real team. They are in the top flight of St. Vincent football.
Nice.
All right, my next team, Buckingham Bay Pirates.
I think you're adding the Pirates to make it sound real, but I'm going to go with fake.
Buckingham Bay Pirates is a fake team. Buckingham Bay was the resort on the west side of the island that shut down in 2016, right around the time when we were visiting.
Also, can we've gone this whole podcast, and I just want to quickly note that on top of all the things that St. Vincent is known for, Buckingham Bay, that area of St. Vincent, is where Pirates of the Caribbean was filmed. And so there's a lot of references to Jack Sparrow and Pirates of the Caribbean on the island.
Yeah, it should be noted that apparently the government is working with Sandals to take over that area and build a resort down there. So
if you want people to test it out, DM us at CONCACAF. We would be happy to check out Sandals.
Sandals sponsor us now. Okay.
All right,
now,
so
go ahead. We're three of
team
four. 3 or 4. Right?
Yeah, he's no, wait, 3 or 4? No, 2 or 4.
2 or 4.
2 or 4. Okay. Yep. All right, so the last one I have for you is Awesome FC.
Awesome FC. Because it's FC and not SC, I'm going to say it's a real team.
Awesome FC, you think is a real team? Yes. Like, how dumb are you?
I mean,
actually, you're not. You're not dumb. That is a real team.
So. Yeah.
That's a real team. Also, probably the greatest name we've had for a real team. Just awesome.
Dare I say it's an awesome name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there you go.
All right, and the final team, Glenside Ball Blazers SC.
All right, you have to repeat that one.
Glenside Ball Blazers SC.
No, that's fake.
Glenside Ball Blazers SC is a real team. They finished 6th in the first division of the St. Vincent competition this year.
Ball Blazers SC.
Glenside.
See, I set you up with Awesome FC and Avenues United, and you get
just for funsies, some of the cutting room floor. These are real teams. Bequia United. I mean, that's nice. Volcanoes. Just Volcanoes. That's a team name.
So there is not even Volcanoes like
Dynamo. Just Volcanoes.
Volcanoes FC.
Just Volcanoes.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes. Royal SVG Police.
Okay.
Tony Store Jugglers. Strike Force. And what was the other one?
I had a few.
Hope International was good.
Hope International, Bluebirds FC, North Leeward Predators.
Oh yeah,
that's really
and
cool.
System 3.
System 3.
Yeah, that's not FC, just System 3. That's it.
Their logo, a bunch of cyborgs. I would be interested in the logo for the jugglers. Like, is it a guy juggling?
We'd have to find that.
I mean, I'd love to know. Holy shit! They've got an Instagram. Yes. The logo is like a tree. Their female side is in the Premier Division. Their men's senior side is in the 2nd division.
Wow.
Their kits are not bad. Yeah, I'm going to share this in the chat. So yeah, we're going to look to see if Tony Store Jugglers FC has some merch. I want to thank everybody for listening. Vishal, thank you for blessing us with your presence.
No, thank you for having me on. Yes.
We're going to chat more on our One More Round episode that you can hear on our Patreon. You just subscribe at patreon.com/podcacaf. We've got bonus content there, these kind of podcasts. You can also join us on our Discord to continue discussion. We got to get Vish into the Discord so we can talk about dumb CONCACAF shit. Donald, where can people find you?
At BlazingDW on Twitter and at starsandstripesfc.com.
And we just want to say we miss you, Jonathan, since you're too busy to be here for this. You can follow him at JSlape on Twitter and Broadway Sports Media talking about Nashville SC. We've got more content coming up. Nations League is right around the corner. So tune in. Just make sure you like, subscribe, support, tell your friends. St. Vincent, wonderful place.
Oh, real quick.
Oh,
we're doing a giveaway.
Yes.
We have some merch that we're giving away. We're giving away a hoodie, a World of CONCACAF hoodie, and a World of CONCACAF black tank, which is going to be great for people who are going to Vegas. So follow our social media, again, at PodCACAF. We will release how this is going to be given away in the coming days. So look out for that.
We will give free merch if you can deliver us more capital.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for listening.